I'm going to sound like really shitty, but like I won my high school talent show 2 years in a row. Everybody fucking loved me. It was stupid. I was adorable.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show called Hitmakers. I guess that's still what it's called. Today I am talking to Erin Muir, who is a local musician here in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. She makes and performs music under the name Wrote. She just finished a run of shows. We sat down to talk about that a little bit and about doing the thing, you know? I don't have a whole lot to say, I guess. You can find her at Wrote Songs on Instagram or wrote.bandcamp.com, or look up Wrote on whatever your favorite streaming service is. And I'll have links to those in the show notes, which, as always, are learndrums.ca/hitmakers. Again, for now, I'm thinking about retiring this whole Learn Drums bit. We'll see. I don't really feel like maintaining that identity a whole lot these days. It sort of has outgrown its purpose. When I started it, it was for the purpose of trying to get people to come take drum lessons at my house. I initially thought it would be like a online, like, here's how to do beginner drum lessons kind of thing. But discovered I wasn't a programmer. So anyhow, if you're looking for a hot web property, I may be able to hook you up. In other news, I guess I watched the Junos last night, the Juno Awards, the Canadian Grammys, if you're listening from somewhere else in the world. And I gotta say, I wasn't familiar with probably half of the performers, which, I mean, no doubt it's cool that they're giving a platform to new artists, but it was also kind of crazy seeing how much the landscape has changed in the last 20, 30 years. Corey Hart was given a Lifetime Achievement Award, which I can't ever say I was ever really a fan. But you watch the highlights from his career, and it's from an era where you could, if you were able to break through, you'd be all over the airwaves and just be huge. Now, like, you know, I recognize Jesse Reyes, Shawn Mendes, obviously Sarah McLachlan, who hosts the show, the Arkells, Jeremy Dutcher, certainly more exciting, relevant, interesting, current artists. But they don't seem to have anywhere near the profile. Almost also made me question, though, whether I am totally out of the loop with what's actually relevant or what. I'm judging by the theme song to this show. The answer may be yes. Also got to spin some vinyl at a bar this weekend. That was fun. First time I'd done that. Kind of exclusively with a couple turntables. Had a good time. Anyway, I'm almost out of time, speaking of time. So here it is, my conversation with Erin Muir of Wrote. I'm chatting with Erin Muir of, would you say AKA Wrote, or of the band Wrote, or how do you define it?
Wrote.
Yeah?
I am Wrote.
Love it.
I would say. I have this conversation so many times, like once a week,
Yeah?
I will have this conversation. It's like, how do you, like, because I technically am a singer-songwriter, essentially. Like, that's what the I was going to say the band is, but it's like, it's a project. They're my songs.
Yep.
I essentially like control it. Mm-hmm. It's not a band, but I play with people.
Yep.
It's a moniker in a way.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the weather station.
Right.
It's Tamara Lindemann.
It's her, and then the band is whoever
she wants. And like it's usually like, you know, like a bunch of cool Toronto folks.
Yeah.
And there's usually some like cross-pollination, what's the guy from Attack in Black? What's his name?
Is it Ian Kehoe? Is that the guy?
Yeah. So it's like he's always in the band.
Yeah, he's a drummer in that band?
Yes. And I think he was a drummer in Attack in Black as well. Like he is a drummer by nature.
Yeah.
So it's like he's always there, but like sometimes like things will change and like it's fun. It's still the weather station because it's still the songs that are the main sort of, I don't know, aspect of it, I guess.
Do people get confused?
I think it used to happen, but it was really just me being confused because I don't think people actually think about it all that much. Like they don't actually care that much.
I wouldn't think so either.
You know? Like it's just like, oh, I'm seeing road. Like I don't really care what it is. It's like if I would hope that if somebody wanted to see Rote, it would be because they liked the songs, not because they liked some, you know, particular thing that like somebody did on, like, let's just say, I mean, I have two things out right now. I have Each Other's Skins, which is an EP, and then Laid Myself Down again. I can't remember if it's called Laid Myself Down or Laid Myself Down Again. Because it's weird because there's a song called Laid Myself Down. Okay, no, the EP is called Laid Myself Down Again, and the song is called Laid Myself Down. But the song is...
That's fine.
You know, like it's kind of this weird thing.
I think as a creator, though, you have a different relationship to it anyway than... Because somebody, especially it's like funny in the way that people are fans... who they'll like collect things and memorize every detail. And that may just be something you're like, yeah, it's called this, I guess, you know? I'm not saying that that's your process, but I'm saying... I
mean, it kind of is in a way, though. Yeah. Like, for sure. Because I'll always take... Or from what I've done previously is I'll take a lyric or I'll take whatever and make it the album or the EP title. Because I think that just kind of like... I'll find like a common theme and like just kind of like, you know... Oh, well, that can kind of resonate with everything else. So sure, let's go with it.
Yeah.
Or like wherever I am, like in that point of like my life or career or whatever. But it's kind of funny because I, for the first time in quite a long time, listened to my old EP today. I was at work and I had like 2 hours like just by myself in the store, and like it's a fucking Wednesday, like nobody's in the market. Yeah. So I put on the album like on, you know, this like little boombox that we have, and I was listening to it, and I never listened to it, but I was listening to it and I was like, this is really interesting, like because I've played these songs like live, like just by myself, or I've played them with different people, and like they're not totally different, but like I don't know, like the vibe is different.
Right.
You know?
They're not the same. And is that, do you feel like that's because you've evolved as a person or the songs have evolved from being played, or both?
I would hope both. I would hope I have evolved as a person.
When did that EP come out? So
that EP was, oh my God. So I recorded it in... the fall of 2017, and it came out in like I think April of 2018.
So not that long ago.
No, not at all. It I feel like it took a while for like the recording process and like the actual release of it, because I worked with Evan Matthews in Sackville. And I don't live in Sackville. So I went up there for like a weekend. And then we just kind of like collaborated like online for a while. And then I, you know, as I feel like most people do, they're like, I don't like the vocals. I want to redo them.
Oh yeah, of course.
So then I went back up. I went back up in like maybe like January or something. And we redid the vocals. And then it came out, I think in April or like end of March. And it was funny because we had done a tour at the exact same time of the year that I had done a tour like this year.
Okay.
So it was kind of weird. So I was predominantly on my own this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you prefer playing solo or playing with a band?
I don't have a preference.
Cool.
I mean, it depends. It depends on my mood.
But I like that.
But essentially, I mean, I can do either or. Like when I apply for festivals, it's kind of awkward because I have to be like, I can play solo if you want me to. Mm-hmm. I might have to play solo if the band is not available because I play with people who are in other bands.
Sure.
Like quite successful bands, you know? It's like they have shit to do.
That's kind of the nature of it, though. And I think as we go on in the music industry, it's like you have to be pretty committed to a band to bother with that. I think the kind of singer-songwriter who does everything and then puts a band together when necessary is a more functional thing in a lot of ways. Just in terms of like, you can write your songs, you can perform them, you can put a band together when you need a band, but you don't have to rely on them.
Yeah.
And
it's very freeing.
Yeah.
But like, probably like coming back to the weather station, which we were talking about earlier, it's like, you know, like the weather station will have a certain sound no matter what, because of the songwriting like technique that this girl uses. But like the instrumentation like has always been quite different. I'm a huge fan. So it's like, you know, like she did, you know, like she did her first album and it was like very, very folky and like there was a lot of like banjo. Yeah. And then like compared to the last album that she did, it's like still like there's still the same voice, but it's just like portrayed differently. Like I don't know how to describe it, but it's interesting. And I don't know, I guess I kind of want to embody that sort of idea where it's like the genre doesn't really change and the like the message in a way doesn't change, but like the instrumentation will change. Like, you know, like I don't know, it's hard to talk about because it's like listening to the EP that I did back in October 2017, and then now it's like there are so many different there are so many similarities, not different similarities, but it's essentially the same thing in my mind. But I'm also just like a biased listener. Like,
oh yeah, you can never be objective about it.
I should ask somebody else to listen to it and just be like, you should just like, you know, listen to it and like listen to this, tell me what's the same, tell me what's different.
But
tell me how much more I've evolved.
Well, so the question is though, I guess that follows that is like, does that matter? You know what I mean? Like, what do you want to know that for? I guess
that's a question for the listener. Right? I don't know if it matters. It matters to me because I'm so involved, like in myself and in my craft or my art, if you will. But like, does it matter? I actually don't know. I don't know either. It's not something I've thought about really before. I mean, I think about it a bit because, you know, like you'll have like, what's your favorite? Like if you were to pick a favorite band or artist or whatever. I would say it changes by, I would say for a long time it was Radiohead. I'm kind of on the other side of that now. Oh, okay. I think. Well, let's just take Radiohead for example. Like their career has, it's like morphed and mutated and and it's like you as a listener, like you have to think about what that means to you and what you expect. Like what would you expect of the next Radiohead? It's hard to say, right? It's like you don't know. Yeah. And totally. Maybe that's why you like it so much. Well, that is certainly why like I will rush to check out the album because I never know what it's going to sound like. Even the latest one sounds like kind of a combination of everything they've ever done, whereas the one before it was really kind of electronic-y, but also like half of it was really electronic and the other half was like kind of folky and pretty stripped down. And then in Rainbows, like I just didn't know what to make of it when it came out. That is an interesting album. But I've listened to that. Yeah, I've listened to a lot.
But yeah, totally, it has changed. And I've even like read interviews where they talked about it. It's like, I don't know why anybody who listened to us in the early days still would.
Right.
You know, some people, and that's kind of the thing about it. And also, it's like why you can't get too hung up on whether or not people like it, because I think if you are like making art that feels right and feels natural, it's like, or like real art, then it is going to change, and you can't do anything about that. And you will just naturally lose some people and gain other ones, and that's fine. Not everybody has to like everything.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's even kind of like, I think that's just the human condition, really.
Yeah, true.
If you really start to think about it, it's like, you know, the people that I hung out with in high school, like 5 or 6 years ago. It's like, but like, I don't talk to them anymore, really. They'll send me like happy birthday messages, and we'll have like this very like quick conversation, like this very nostalgic thing, but it's like, I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah, it's funny.
And it's like, why would you expect that from an artist to be the same throughout the years, right?
Totally.
But we do. I mean, maybe because it's a commodification thing where it's like you've commodified this artist as like, this is, you know, like this is a folk artist, and then they release an electronic album and you're like, no.
Yeah, I think there is that. I think there is like some people do get a sense of entitlement over, or maybe it's like ownership. They like, you're like, this is my band and I love them, and you know,
that's
and
understandable.
Then, yeah, totally. And then they put out something you don't like, and you feel betrayed by that, or you feel like you have some right to demand that they do the thing you like. Like that's the thing that drives me nuts when people do that. I had it was just funny, whatever. I had a conversation with my cousin, and he was a big Winter Sleep fan in the early days, and hasn't really been a big fan in a while, and that's kind of locally not that uncommon. And it's funny because listening, I did kind of like listen through their discography, because I had kind of felt that. I was like really into the early stuff, and then they became successful, and it seemed like they got happier, and like nobody wants their angsty band to be happy, which sucks, right?
That's totally fair, though.
Yeah,
I get that.
But it also is like, when they started, they were nobody. Making music to blow off steam. Yeah. Then you become successful. You're playing festivals. Like, why should you go and be miserable at some?
Yeah, for sure.
But then you don't relate to it in the same way. But anyway, my cousin was complaining that they were on the radio and they were like talking about, they were getting political basically.
Okay.
And he didn't like that. And he's like, it should be about, I liked it better when it was like, just like engaging the imagination, not talking about this kind of stuff. And I don't want them talking about it. And I was like, I really kind of, I don't know, took offense or got upset. But it's just like, you can like what somebody does, you can not like it, but you do not get to say what they should and shouldn't do, especially as an artist.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's countless examples, like so many that you can't even think, like you can't even pinpoint it. And it's interesting because people will sometimes be like, an artist gets too political. Yeah. And then you don't like them anymore. And that's really troubling to me in a sense, because you're shutting off, like, it's like, oh, you loved this artist for so long, and then all of a sudden they have something that they want to say, and you don't agree with it. And then everything else is just kind of lost.
Well, yeah, you think they shouldn't talk about it. And especially when whatever they make is just a process of like, the world going in and then getting filtered through their brains and then coming back out in some form. And like, so they're just responding to stuff that's around.
Of course. Yeah. And I mean, and that's really what we all do. Like, it's kind of funny. Like, I'm obviously like interested in music, and I love songwriting, and I also love literature. Like I'm a literature student, like kind of by nature. But it's like, you know, like there are some things, like there are a lot of books that I've read that it's like, I don't agree with a lot of the things that are happening in that book, but I can still try to understand it. And I guess like when it comes to people who are like, oh, you know, like Winter Sleep is like this now and I don't like them. Well, no, like just listen to them. Like you've been listening to them.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with them.
No, I think you absolutely don't.
Absolutely
and
not.
And you don't have to like it. Like,
yeah, that's true. Like you don't have to like it or agree with it, but you can't dismiss it.
No, totally.
Right?
And you definitely can't, like, you know, people will get upset. It's like, well, I've been supporting them forever. I spent all this money on this stuff. It's like, great, you bought that stuff because you liked it. Like,
yeah. Well, and I mean, that's just kind of like a consumerism culture, which is, I think, a bit problematic when we're talking about like music and art. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's like music is interesting because, you know, you can buy a painting from somebody that you really, really like. You love this painting, whatever. And you might not have an expectation of buying another painting from them.
Right.
But if you really like this artist or this band, it's like you have the expectation that they're going to release something else and you're also going to really like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like it's a different...
That's funny. I hadn't thought of that.
I don't know. It's kind of weird because it's like, you know, like I have minimal art in my home because I'm a musician. I don't have money.
I have plaster walls. Like, I can't hang anything up.
Yeah. I have like one like real piece of art, I guess you would say. And it's interesting because it's like I love it and I look at it all the time. But like I'm probably not going to buy another piece of art from that person, not because I don't like it, but because it's just like that's what I have by them.
Yeah, you've already got one.
Yeah, and it's like maybe like it's like I would probably want something different, like something by a different artist in a different medium. Like this was like a print that I have, and I really love it, but it's like no, I'm onto something new.
So, Erin, how'd you get into playing music?
It's actually kind of funny. Because I had gotten a guitar when I was in grade 4. So that would have been 2004 because I was born in 1994 and it all just kind of works out. Very, very like, I don't know, normally it's like, oh, like in 2004 I was in grade 4. In 2005 I was in grade 5. So it's great. So I started playing guitar then, but I was very bad at it and I gave it up. And then I joined a dance school, and then the dance school went out of business, and I had nothing to do for a summer, and I started playing that guitar that I got in 2004, and I played it in the back. I was too scared to play it in my house with my parents around, so I went out into the car, and I sat in the back seat of my parents' like Taurus. And I learned how to play guitar.
Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird story. But,
well, it's funny that it took, but the guitar is a funny one. Like I picked up the guitar when my sister had gotten a Sears one for Christmas, and then tried it for a few weeks and got frustrated and didn't touch it again. Well,
it's kind of funny because like it was a frustrating process, but like I learned guitar like over about a summer because I had literally nothing to do. Like I lived kind of like in between the airport and like the first real suburbs of St. John. So I was like in this weird middle ground and there were no kids around. And you know, like I couldn't go anywhere. Like I was just kind of stuck there. And it was this beautiful place. Like my parents live in this beautiful little valley, and you know, I'd go for walks and runs and stuff, but it was like I needed to do something. And I was like, well, I have this guitar and I've always loved music. I used to like sing into like I had this little like boom box where you could record onto a tape, and I used to sing like Hillary Duff songs.
Oh, nice.
What
you were like 10 or something?
And wash me clean. Yeah, no, like 10ish.
Yeah.
And then I think around like 12 or 13, I started playing guitar.
If you are into it, it doesn't matter that it's hard to do because you just want to do it, but you need to be motivated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know where my motivation came from. I mean, probably from boredom, really. There was nothing, there was really just nothing to do in this weird little part of town because St. John is so spread out.
Right.
And it's like you're either in the suburbs or you're uptown or you're like on the west side or you're in Rossa or Quispam, which is like not really St. John, but like,
sure, it's
those people like
the
as
area.
Johners essentially.
Yeah.
But like I was in this weird place where it was like Upper Loch Lomond, like I don't know, like there weren't kids around, and like I had a couple good friends, but they were like a 20-minute drive away.
Yep.
And so I didn't get to see them. Like I mean, I got to see them like all the time, like when I was in school, but in the summer. It was just like I was
when
stuck.
You're a kid,
I was just stuck out there.
Totally.
And so like that's just what I did. That's just how I occupied my time. Like I don't know how it came about. I just realized one day I was like, I need to do something. And I saw like that old like first act guitar.
Right.
That my parents had got me in grade, whatever. And I was just like, oh sweet, like I'm gonna try this again. And then like that summer, like that was like my goal.
And that's
I
when
just did it.
That's when it worked. Like that's when it clicked or whatever.
Yeah. And so I would have been about like, I don't know, like 10 or 11, 12-ish, I guess. I don't know.
What's kind of interesting about that, though, to me anyway, is that, it might come about that way. Like that might be how you get into it, but still you picked that over whatever other activity and then stuck with it. Whereas, like, I definitely know people who have owned guitars that they have bought and thought they might learn how to play and just never did.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about me or my family in particular is like they saw that I really liked this. Yeah. And they were just like, that's your thing. Right. And because I had been in a dance school beforehand. Oh gosh, I don't even really want to say this, but it's like, like if you put your kid into sports, like hockey, it's a lot of money. And I'm not going to say that my parents were like poor per se, but it's like, it was just like, oh, Erin really likes music, and she literally just taught herself how to play guitar. Yeah. So we're like, why would you interfere with that? That's her thing, right? Yeah. They didn't interfere with it. They encouraged it, and they still do. Like they, were going to lend me their car for the tour, and then like something happened, and like one of the other cars broke down, and they needed it. Yeah. And like Ryan had to drive me all over the country or province, a couple provinces. I don't know, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. The region. The region. There we go. And I felt so bad about it, but it's like, because my parents like were like, yeah, you can totally have the car. It's like, we wouldn't give you the car if it wasn't for something that we actually wanted you to do. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's sweet. But yeah, like they never really put me into like lessons or anything. They were just like, they saw that I could do it, and they were like, go for it. That's great. I think like lessons can be good, but they are not necessary if you are truly motivated. Right. And they won't help if you're not motivated. That's true. And I mean, I've met kids that have been put through music lessons that they don't care. No, I mean, some of them do. Some of them will grow to love it. I have two younger cousins. They're I don't know. They're both in their teens now, but like they're my cousins, so I've known them since they were born. Mm-hmm. One of them was like really, really into the instrument that they were studying, and the other one was kind of like, whatever. Right. And it's like, it's kind of that weird thing where it's like, as a parent, you don't want to, force your child into like something that they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. But if their younger sibling or their older sibling is like into it, it's like, what do you do in that situation? Because it's like, obviously like, oh, well, somebody wants to take music lessons. The other one doesn't, but like, it just kind of works out in the same schedule that it's like, oh, well, they should both take, you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know. It's tough. Like as a parent, I wouldn't even know how to react.
I mean, it's a thing that I found, as somebody who like fell into teaching music lessons. Every kid comes with a different set of, like ambitions and issues and expectations. And it's like there's some who are just there to do something, which would be like that kid. Yeah,
like one of those kids, right? But then the other one actually really took to it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who are like, well, if I'm paying all this money, you better be working, you know? But it's like the kid doesn't care. Like,
right. They're just there. Like they're just in it. It's like if you put your kid through, like for example, like brownies or sparks, which is essentially like Boy Scouts for, you know, boys. But like, I didn't give a shit.
Oh, were you in it?
That. Oh, yeah.
But I always wanted to do it, but I never did. Like I remember my friends were beavers and they had the hats.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I wanted the hat. I didn't know anything else about it.
Well, it's funny because brownies, like, so it was this weird thing. It was like Sparks is the thing before brownies. And so Sparks, you get like just a T-shirt or a sweatshirt or something.
But
then brownies, you get like the entire outfit. Like it's a fucking uniform. It's really weird. It's really weird. And it's all brown and orange. And then you have like the sash. I didn't like that.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know how I would have felt about that either. I thought I was interested in being a scout because I like wanted to learn how to tie knots and use a knife.
Right. We didn't learn that in brownies, by the way.
What's that? You didn't?
We didn't. No.
No. Well, so this is the thing. I actually was talking to somebody about it the other day. I was up staying at my friend's place in Halifax, and they have a daughter who's now 6 and is in Sparks. So I have some Girl Guide cookies at my house right now that I overpaid for the quality of these cookies.
Yeah, but they're not the greatest, but no. I mean, it's the cause, man.
Well, but that's what they're saying is that it has kind of come around. It's less like sexist maybe, or like
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Because when I was in it, like it was bullshit, like because I knew guys the same age that were like learning all this cool shit, and I was like learning how to talk to strangers on the telephone, like it was this really weird, it was this really weird like sort of like, oh, you're a girl and we're gonna like essentially like I don't know, like there were a couple times, I mean there were also some very wholesome activities where it was like, guess how many jelly beans are in this jar.
Right.
But then there was also like, and a lot of it was like, you know, how to deal with like creepy dudes.
Yeah,
which I mean, sure, I get it, but like, I'd
sucks that that's your activity.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather learn how to tie knots and go out into the woods for like a weekend.
Yeah, because I don't know. For me, like, I would have thought that's what I was signing up for. And how old would you have been at that time?
Well, like, so brownies. I didn't go into guides because I was like, at that time, I was like, Mom, I want to play guitar. I don't want to go into guides. But I think it was like I don't know, like 11 or 12-ish.
So, like, how to keep from getting kidnapped, basically.
Essentially, right? It was like fear-mongering. It was really weird.
Crazy.
Yeah. It wasn't the best time of my life. Then I learned how to play guitar, and here I am.
Okay, good. So let's talk about that for a second. So how did you get from playing, like picking up the guitar on your own out in the country to being a performer, for lack of a better word?
My high school talent shows.
Really?
Yeah. This is like, I'm going to sound like really shitty, but like I won my high school talent show 2 years in a row. Everybody fucking loved me. It was stupid. I was adorable on stage. I had really good rhythm. Like that's the thing. It's like for whatever reason, like I'm not even from a musical background, but like I just have rhythm. Apparently,
you got a sensibility for sure. Like
people have told me that I have rhythm,
yeah,
and I think that's what ultimately like saved me. But yeah, no, I played my high school talent shows, and I got hooked. I got hooked, and I loved performing.
Was it what got you to perform at the talent show? Was it nerve-wracking?
So there's 4 years of high school. Grade 9, I didn't do a thing because you're in grade 9, whatever. Grade 10, this dude, I don't even remember his name, but he was on my bus and he found out that I played guitar, and he was like, do you want to play guitar and sing with me? And we were going to sing like this blue rodeo song, and he had a harmonica, and he was really good at the harmonica. He was a very bad singer, and we didn't get in.
Oh, no.
And so that was in grade 10. And then in grade 11, I tried out with a Bruce Springsteen song.
Which one?
Oh my gosh. It's off Nebraska. It's not like Born to Run.
Yeah,
it's like oh my God. It's talking about like the promenade. What's it called? Oh gosh.
I'm not sure. I've listened to that album, but
it's like the really acoustic album. Yeah. And I remember like the teachers were like, can you sing another Bruce Springsteen song? And I was like, no. No. That's the one I've practiced for weeks. Like, no, I can't. And they were like, well, come back next week and sing something else.
Why
and so
did
I
they
did.
Say that?
Well, I don't know. I guess it was kind of weird. Like thinking back on that, it's like, was that not impressive enough? Like you didn't. Or
was it like the song was a bummer or something and they wanted?
Well, I mean, it could have been a bummer. What was that? It's the song off of that album.
Oh, okay.
Nebraska is the album.
I don't know. I'm like not really a Springsteen guy, although Atlantic City?
Atlantic City,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
I fucking tried out for...
Great tune, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tried out for my grade 11 talent show with that fucking song.
Wow, and they didn't want it.
And they were like, do you know any other songs?
That's so weird.
Yeah. I was like, well, not right now. And then I think I came back and I sang Bobby McGee.
Oh, nice.
And they liked that one. They were like, yeah, you're in.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I played, so in my high school talent shows, like we each got to play like 2 songs. So the first year I played Bobby McGee, and I don't even remember now. And then the second year I played the Feist song, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. And then I played Landslide. And
nice.
Right? And so like they're all like kind of like slower, like not super like upbeat songs. I mean, I think I just practiced so much, and like I love singing and playing so much that like it kind of came across. Like I'm not really a great singer or a great guitar player, but like I mean, I guess I don't know, like if you just feel it, like people will resonate with that.
Way more important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing is also, most people can't tell if you're any good. They can tell if you can like deliver.
I hope they can't.
Well, no, but you're fine anyway. But people can tell if something resonates with them.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in the way, like a lot of people can tell, like if somebody can play really fast, they must be really good, or
really high up.
Yeah,
on
totally.
The guitar, right? Because it's all about like suspense and like.
Yeah, totally. So
yeah,
it's like, if you can like, sing really high notes or something, or like really belt it out, then you must be good. But
yeah.
But you don't need any of that to have an affecting performance. And also, I think as everybody knows, but you see it all the time. All of the like chops or whatever in the world won't save you if what you're doing is fundamentally boring, or just like not like emotionless.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are lots of people out there who can play really fast guitar.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's kind of funny because I think that kind of comes back a little bit to what, like when we were talking about like, you know, like teaching music.
Yeah.
It's like you can't really teach somebody to love it, but you can teach a technique or whatever, but it's like it doesn't come across as like impressive or moving unless that person really enjoys it, right?
Totally,
like,
yeah.
It's not something you can teach into somebody. And it's like one of my cousins, like they were just kind of like, like I don't really like this. Mm-hmm. And then the younger one was like, you know, like you could just tell.
Yeah.
He was just different in that way where it's like he really gravitated towards like feeling things. And he's very, not to say that the other one isn't creative, but he's creative in like a more like emotional way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like that's why he kind of stuck with, you know, what he did like in those music lessons.
Because it mattered to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's another funny one too, where it's like, in some ways also it's like, maybe you're just like way too sensitive for the real world. So you got to like create this other world where you can be okay.
That's something I've thought about a lot, actually. Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, like you kind of start to talk about like, especially when you get into like really thinking about music and thinking about like songwriting and what the songs mean and what music means to you. It's like you get into this like whole debate about like, am I mentally well at this point? You know what I mean? Because it's like everybody to an extent, I think, will suffer from some sort of mental illness, whether it's temporary or chronic or whatever. But being like a really good artist or being like a genius has always been associated with like crazy people, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like whether they're schizophrenic or bipolar. And I mean like I'm saying crazy with like, you know, like quotation marks, because like we understand now that like it really is like a chemical imbalance, but it's like, you know, like I will just say like I've dealt with depression since I was in grade 10, which is about when I started playing guitar, essentially, or like really started to think about music that way. And ever since, it's like that's been the thing that I've gravitated towards, and I'm like okay at it. And like I think the reason I'm okay at it is like maybe not the reason, but it's like I think a lot of things kind of, I don't know, like meld together when it comes to that. It's like, oh, like, well, I do have a mental illness, and that is like a coping mechanism.
100%.
And therefore, I mean, it might not be always a coping mechanism, like, but like, how do I say that? It's like the I don't know, like.
It's like the cure in some ways. Like I really find it is. Because I even had that experience earlier today. I was like having a really rough day and just like not feeling interested in, excited about anything. Everything was difficult. I was feeling depressed and just like bummed out. And I kind of got a minute and I was able to play a little bit. And then it made me feel better. Yeah. And it just like, it does fix it temporarily. Like,
yeah, it is temporary for sure.
But it is a thing that I found. And I think that's a thing that people who aren't afflicted by that don't necessarily understand either. Where I know I found like after my band broke up, I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do now. But I discovered that I just need to play in order to feel okay. Yes. It's not because it's like a smart career path or anything. Like,
yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because I had this moment where, so I was with Ryan Hillier. Yeah. And we went up to Fredericton, and then we crashed in Moncton where he lives. So we crashed at his place, and then went down to Inniganish. And the weekend before, I had also crashed at his place because I was going to PEI. Yeah. So I was just like there a bunch, and I felt like not awkward, But it's like, I'm invading this person's space.
Right.
And it's like, I don't, like, I know you're cool with it, but I still feel a bit awkward. And so anyway, we were just like, he was like, I'm going to go like work on some stuff on my computer. I was like, oh, cool. I'll do the same thing. And then I was like, oh, like I should like maybe go practice. And he has like a basement. And I was like, hey, Ryan, I'm just going to like go down to your basement and practice. And I tried to practice and I just couldn't. Like I started like singing, like he has a PA and everything down there. And I was like, oh, like this sounds awful. And then I just sat down in front of like this little space heater that he had. It was so toasty. And I just like curled up beside it and I just started playing guitar. And I must have played for like 2 hours, like just like fucking around.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, like I was just better. Like it was like, oh, I'm not nervous for this show and in this, town I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Like, with this person who I haven't really played with that much. It was just like, oh, okay. Like I'm essentially cured for, a couple hours.
Wild.
Like, yeah.
And not to dwell too much, but I was thinking recently about like the band name The Cure, which I was like, that name never made any sense to me, but I was like, oh, now I get it. Like this is like, this cures whatever your shit is. And so what was it like? Just the vibe was better, I guess, when you like sat down next to the heater or what? Like, I
mean, the heater was very comforting because it was very toasty and warm, and his house was so cold. Like man, like he must be a reptile. Like I don't understand. Like it's just like it was just so cold in there all the time. Like I had to wear socks to bed.
Oh really? Yeah. If my feet are cold, I can't sleep. Like that's real. Yeah.
I had to wear socks to bed, and I had to like tuck my feet like up, like kind of like into like into my thighs, and because I'm just so cold. But I mean, like he's a lovely person, and like I'm very grateful that he hosted me for like way too long.
But dude.
But like turn the fucking heat on. Like
it's winter.
Like, it is so winter. Like
yeah. I just remember that though. We used to play in Fredericton at my friend's place. I don't know if they just didn't have heat or they had no money and they just kept it as low as they could get away with. But it was a similar kind of thing.
I should mention that like Ryan owns a house, so like he like probably like pays for everything.
Oh yeah.
It's like I've always lived in apartments. Like I will crank the heat and I will crank the AC without a problem. But it's like I don't pay for that shit.
Yeah.
So it's like I understand.
Yeah, it becomes expensive.
I was pretty cold.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. What's next for Rote? You just finished a tour.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
Where'd you play?
I played St. John, obviously, with Clinton Charlton.
Yeah, I was at that show.
You were, and it was
Taco
great.
Pica. Interesting lineup of the band too. I don't know if this is something you shed some light on. 2 guitars and a drum kit.
Yeah.
Any reason?
We don't have a bass player. Essentially.
Right.
Well, I mean, I had played. So the album was recorded with Corey, who plays guitar.
Yeah.
And he also played the drums on those like 3 songs, but like really only 2, I think, that have drums on them. And one of them doesn't really have drums. It's just like kind of like we have like brushes like on the snare, but like there's no actual drums. It's I mean it's percussion, I guess. Just like so yeah, I mean I also know that Jeff Smith lives in the exact same house.
Right.
And I've played with him before.
Uh-huh.
And he's kind of, I don't know, like I've played music with him before, and like in Tooth and the Fang, and I know his drumming style. And it's like, oh, like I could tell you to do what I want you to do because I know what you want to do. Uh-huh. And it's essentially the same thing. Like very like just minimal, like, you know, just lots of like percussive, like kind of like I'm really into, like, when it comes to drums, I'm into, like, those, like, really, like, percussive, like, you know, there's brushes and mallets and, like, and different sort of cymbals and, and, like, the, I don't know, like, timbre? Timbre of things, timbre. Like timbre. Like
timbre.
I don't know. Like I'm not.
There's that band timbre.
Timbre.
Yeah, timbre.
But so it's funny because Jeff really understands that, and Corey is just like all over, just great, and a very good guitar player. Like he can play anything.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought what he was doing was really neat. Like with the. It was like echoey and like. Yeah. I found it gave the band a really interesting sound.
That is very interesting. Actually, I started listening to, we had recorded a live video a couple of weekends ago, and he just sent me like the audio from the, because obviously like it was down at his place and he took the audio and then like everybody else took the video. And I listened to it and I was like, holy shit, like this sounds really good. Like, do I sound this good all the time? Like, what the fuck? But awesome. that was a moment where I was like, I really like playing with these guys because we have a dynamic where it's like, I mean, I've known them for, I mean, like close to 5 years now. And we haven't been playing together for 5 years, but it's like I've been around their place and like I know them relatively intimately.
That all makes a difference, though. It all like it's all part of the vibe.
I can just boss them around.
Yeah,
and they listen. That's great.
Well, it's one thing that I find is interesting about the scene here, where it being a small town, people. There's a lot of like people would be a band leader in one band and then a side person in another band.
Yes.
And because it's not your only chance to play, you don't necessarily have to have a huge ego about it. You don't have to be like, and maybe because nobody's like hot shit making a bunch of money too.
Right.
It's like,
I mean, isn't that just the Maritimes in general?
Oh, though? It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I feel like that's the Maritime vibe, and that's why I like it. Like I've been thinking about moving away quite a bit recently. Just like, you know, I just turned 25 and it's like, maybe I should like leave.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
People do that.
That honestly is part of my, part of my motivation when doing this too, is like, well, what are we doing here? It's like, if you live in Canada and you want to make music, shouldn't you be in Toronto? Really? But do you want to live there?
No. I don't. I love Toronto.
Yeah.
I have lived there like very comfortably before. I lived with like my aunt and uncle who are both like, you know, fine. Financially, it's like, oh yeah, you can just like stay with us and like look after our kids.
Amazing.
And it's like sweet. Yeah. And that was amazing, but I'm really glad I got that experience because I don't think I could do it like just on my own.
Right.
I mean, just like financially, it's fucked there.
I know. I don't know. I don't know how.
I have no idea. I have no idea how people survive there. Like, I just don't. I just can't understand it. And so I love the Maritimes for that reason. Yeah. And I don't know. Like maybe I don't want to, you know, tour across like the entire world. Like maybe I just want to do my thing and like I'll work whatever jobs. I mean, like I have other interests. It's not like I'm like solely like music is like the only thing I'm interested in. Like,
well, and also like the only way that I can make money.
Yeah.
Like, because ultimately, you know, like that's a weird, like that whole side of it can put a weird pressure on it.
Well, I mean, I think we're in a day and age where it's like you have to have a couple sort of interests. Like if you're really going to be like an artist of any sort, it's like you have to know how to do social media and graphic design, and then like, you know, your art on top of it, and then, you know, like that, like there's just so many different avenues that you could like pursue, and it's like if you're not making a living with your art alone, it's like you have to just kind of like branch off a little bit. Yeah, totally. And the other thing is like that I've been kind of thinking about more and more, and it's funny because forever I was opposed to this, but you know, you get old enough, you start looking around, you're like, yeah, people have jobs they hate. That's no, of course. They don't want to do it either. You know. Oh man, that like I actually really like my job. Like, I just work in the city market. But it's like, I get enough hours. I like the people I work with.
Yep.
It's like, just whatever. Like, it's a food service job. But like, you just have to look for the things that make it okay.
Totally.
And it's like, no, I'm not going to stay there my entire life. I mean, it's not going to be there my entire life. It's like in the city market. Like,
right.
It's going to be gone. Like, I mean, Sisters, like where I work, like it's been around for 20-ish years.
Yeah, I would
but
think
like,
it seems like fairly stable.
Yeah, like it's one of the longest running businesses in the market, but like it's not going to be there forever, right?
Right, sure.
And it's like, what am I going to do after that? And it's like, you really have to think about like, well, I have these skills and I'm developing these skills. And I also am obviously like trying to do something with music. So it's like, how could I combine all of that into, you know, a life?
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, it's like, you just have to find a balance where it's like, well, I need to make enough money to pay my rent.
To survive, yeah. Exactly.
And then on top of it, I'll do things that I actually really, really like.
All right. Fun one, right? Once again, you can find Erin's music at Wrote wherever you get your tunes. WROTE. Man, I edited out a bunch of uhs from this episode and now I'm throwing them in. Oh, man. Show notes, man, at learndrums.ca/hitmakers, bro. Yeah, I listened to the 1000th episode of Mark Maron's WTF. I should say Mark Maron and Brendan McDonald's WTF, really. I had no idea how produced it was. One of the things that they revealed on the 1000th episode is that those conversations are off and really chopped up. And so this one is too. You may be able to detect some kind of changes in background. When I started doing this, I would do that to every episode kind of pretty intensely. And a lot of it was because I didn't like the sound of my own voice. And so I would cut myself out or anything that I thought was super cringy. And then I'd gotten into releasing them a little more raw. And now we're back to chopping them up. It does help give the interview a sense of flow for sure. It just takes a lot longer. And I'm not much of a planner, so it's always like I sit down to do the thing, and then I discover that the thing is going to take 5 hours, and I just have to power through and put the 5 hours in. I don't mind doing it. It's just sometimes you don't have the time. All right, that's it. It's 12:42 a.m. I have to release this tomorrow. We'll see what time it comes out. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.